Israeli military operations in Gaza and Syria have escalated sharply, intensifying humanitarian crises and deepening regional instability. In Gaza, relentless bombardments and ground incursions have inflicted catastrophic harm on civilians and infrastructure, while in Syria, targeted airstrikes are altering the region's security landscape. These developments carry significant implications for peace and stability, requiring urgent analysis and global intervention. I'm Hani Saif. Let's get in focus. As reported by the New York Times under the headline, Gaza rescuers are haunted by voices of those they couldn't save. The article highlights the unimaginable toll on Gaza's first responders. These brave individuals risk their lives daily to save others amid relentless airstrikes, often with inadequate resources, facing danger and trauma. This heart-wrenching account sheds light on the dire conditions they endure and the mental and emotional scars they carry, reflecting the broader humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And to help us unpack these critical developments, we're joined by Dr. Abdel Nasser Mekki, the political science professor from occupied Jerusalem. Dr. Mekki, thank you for joining us. I'll start off asking about the Israeli military that has intensified its ground operations in northern Gaza, leading to devastating civilian casualties. What do you believe are the primary objectives of this escalation and the general background that led to the situation?
Yes, I think that the Israeli want to, as you know, after the genocide, they want this area, the north of Gaza, to be isolation and also to be the isolated area between Gaza and between Israel. So they occupied it, and also they want to remove all the people there because there are intensive of the people, thousands, hundred thousands of people. They are in Beit Lahia, Beit Hanun, and in Jabalia refugee camp. So the main objective from the Israeli side is that when they want to have this area, they should, that's remove and kick all the people from there. So they started to bomb it and also to kill the people, starvation, and also the lack of the water, everything, the punishments, inactions, sanctions. So, and also in the same time, the Israeli also they believe that the hospital shouldn't stay there because the people go to the hospital. So they started to demolish and destroy all the hospital, like Kamal Adwan hospitals, and also to kill the doctors. And in the same time, they want to make, like what I said before, to make isolated area there and to occupy it. What is the background for this is that Israeli now believe that they didn't want to repeat the 7th of October the last year. And as you know, this was catastrophic for Israel. Thousands of people from the Israeli and soldiers have been killed. So they didn't want this to be repeated again. And because of this, they, first of all, they punish the people. They also they want to take over this area to expansion, the occupation there. And because of this, I think in the end, the Israeli want to stay there forever.
Mm-hmm. Well, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is worsening by the day, with thousands displaced and healthcare facilities targeted. How should the international community respond to this dire situation?
First of all, I want to tell you that I believe that the international community didn't do anything. The response was weak to help the people, to support them there. Even that, يعني, now with every principles or every the people is not believing now with the international community and even for the humanitarian law, because as you know, the Israeli is used to kill the people every day from 50 to 100 people, and you know that the numbers for this reach to about 45 and 800,000 people have been killed, and about 110,000, 10,000 people have been killed. Beside the missing people, maybe there are about 20,000 people. So from the beginning, the international community didn't respond enough, and even it's not supported Gaza. Maybe if there is another area in the world they could support this, they believe to. I believe that they could go there and to support this area, but in Gaza. The thing is different. This is disaster, genocide, catastrophic there. يعني the international community is not response, not even enough. It's not response totally to stop the genocide, to help the people, to support them, to stop the bombing the hospitals and even the UNRWA schools, which thousands of people, they went there in order to prevent themselves from the Israeli bombing. And so because of this, the international community is not response, as I said before, to the to support Gaza. And even that, they are they are saying that we want to support, we want to give them the assistance. But at the end, people, as you know, many people died from even the starvation, from the cold, as we saw in the TV. Many of the children die from the cold, and also at the same time from the starvation. Besides the Israeli bombings, and besides the Israeli is tensioning and killing the people in order to remove them from this area.
So now, on to Syria. Israel's recent airstrikes reportedly destroyed an Iranian-linked missile factory. What does this indicate about Israel's strategic priorities now in the region?
I think Israeli want to be the superpower in the Middle East. Now after the Lebanon war, and even that today they said, according to the Israeli, that they didn't want to remove or to be connected to the 60, restricted to the 60 days, the agreement between Hezbollah and between from and the Lebanon from the one side and the other for the Israeli. Today they announced that they request from the United States of America that they want to stay also 30 days besides the 60 days, because they said that the Lebanese army didn't fulfill all these commitment according to the agreement. But from the Israeli side, from the Israeli perspective, after the what happening in Syria, after the falling of the Assad regimes, and after what happening in Lebanon, and after they kill all the first class of the Hezbollah and also from Hamas, all these, that's issues and matters, they provide Netanyahu that he is going to win this war, and because of this, they changed their strategy. Maybe from the beginning they have their strategy, but now they change the strategy to be like the superpower in the Middle East. And also at the same time, this is give them the opportunity, what happening in Syria, the chaos in Syria, give them the opportunity to, that to occupy some kilometers in July Heights and in Konetra, and also some of the rural area in Damascus there, some villages, some small villages, and also at the same time they bombed all the that's armies, the Syrian army, like that's the missiles, the tanks, and also the Iranian, as you said, the Iranian missiles there. So Israel want to be, they didn't want to. They want to take this opportunity in order to be the superpower there in the Middle East, and also at the same time, this is good opportunity for Israel, what's happening in Syria, to destroy all, that the Syrian army, and also at the same time to be or to change their philosophy, not just to in Golan High or in South Lebanon or in Gaza, but also at the same time they want to expand to the another area in order to protect themselves, as they said.
Dr. Mickey, now with these growing concerns about a broader regional conflict, given the tensions along the Syrian-Lebanese border, how realistic is the prospect of this escalation spilling over into neighboring countries?
I think what's happening in Syria, it's something like new things in this war between Hamas and also Israel and between Hezbollah and Israel. It's something happening to, and it was good opportunity to Israel, that to destroy all the Syrian missiles and weapons. But at the same time, as you know, this is something is complicated in this area. When you see the map, you could see that in the north of Syria there is Turkey, and also there is the Kurdi there, and there are the Assad, which is against Turkey. And at the same time, in the south of Syria there is Israel, and also the neighboring country like Jordan or Iraq, or also like Lebanon. So. Uh, about the conflict, it will be escalated or not, is depending now on the 20th of this month, when Trump is coming to the top of the regimes in the United States of America. And I think Trump, according to his strategy and philosophy, he didn't want to go to escalate, to increase the escalation there. He want to be calm there. And I think there are some agreement between Turkey and between the United States of America and Israel in order to, that's to remove all the reasons of escalations or causes of the escalation. And because of this, I don't think that there will be like war in this area. And it's depending, as I said, on the Trump when he come to the regimes in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
There are some, negotiation between the American and between the new regimes in Syria. At the same time, the France now they are with the Lebanon. They try to, to remove all the causes of the escalation. And also, as you know, Jordan and Iraq, they are just waiting what will happening. So I don't
Yes.
think that there will be any increasing the escalation in this area.
Yes. Dr. Abdel Nasser Mekki, the political science professor, thank you very much, sir, for your insights on these critical developments. Now, with the dire humanitarian and geopolitical crises in Gaza and Syria addressed, we turn now to a historic diplomatic shift. The German and French foreign ministers recently met with Syria's new leadership following the ousting of President Bashar al-Assad. What does this signify for Syria's future and its relations with Europe? According to the Washington Post, European Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock and Jean-Noël Barrot held a landmark meeting in Damascus with Ahmed al-Shara, the General Commander of Military Operations Management in Syria. Representing the European Union, the talks explored conditions for resuming relations with Syria, focusing on inclusivity in the political process. Baerbock noted Shara's controversial HTS ties, but acknowledged signs of moderation. This meeting signals a cautious European engagement at a critical juncture for Syria's future. And to discuss this, we're joined by Dr. Mohammed Osman, the international relations expert from Cairo. Dr. Osman, thank you for joining us. This is the first high-level European Union delegation to Syria in years. What are the key motivations behind this diplomatic engagement?
Thank you for having me, Hani, and Happy New Year. For the European Union and for all of the European states, basically, especially the countries that are in the northern Mediterranean area, Syria is a very strategic country. It has a strategic significance because it has been a net exporter of immigrants and refugees for the better part of the past 14 years, and has been also at certain times an exporter of extremism and terrorism. And of course, Syria also is ripe with many natural resources and economic opportunities that the Europeans can take advantage of. So the Europeans have everything to gain by re-engaging Syria and ensuring that they enjoy a stable, strategic, cooperative relationship with them. And that's why many European countries were the first to communicate with the new government in Syria after the fall of the regime of President Assad, despite the shady background, the very shady background that the new rulers of Syria come from. However, of course, in the world of geopolitics, it's always governed by interests and nothing else. So now they have to engage them, and they are taking the initiative in order to gain significant leverage. And of course, that explains why two very high-profile European officials, Annalena Baerbock, the German foreign minister, and Barrot, the French foreign minister, Europe's two powerhouses, basically present on the highest diplomatic level in Syria to meet with Ahmad al-Shara. And I think these are the key motivations that lay behind the European move.
Mm-hmm. Well, the German and French ministers, have emphasized inclusivity and diversity in Syria's new political framework. Now, given Syria's complex ethnic and sectarian makeup, how feasible is this goal really?
An integral part of European foreign policy is paying a very significant amount of lip service to the files of human rights. And these files include, of course, respecting diversity, inclusivity, religious freedoms, and whatnot. And of course, these are matters that are very concerning in post-war Syria, because at the end of the day, the civil war that Syria has suffered from for the past 14 years was of a sectarian nature. And we have seen sectarian-motivated killings that caused thousands of victims from both sides over the past 14 years. And now, of course, with the current composition of the government, which is basically dominated by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and its allies, they are from organizations that at least subscribe partially or used to subscribe to a jihadist extremist ideology. And what lays on the heart of this ideology is an anti-Christian sentiment and an anti-Shia sentiment and an anti-Druze sentiment, anti-everything that does not agree with worldview of religion and life, basically. And of course, since the fall of President Assad, we have seen a very concerning trend of rising sectarian attacks and vindictive actions and acts of reprisals against individuals from the Alawite minority, with reports of dozens, if not hundreds, of people being summarily executed. Of course, the current government has distanced itself from these actions and said that these are individual acts and that they will contain the situation. However, so far, the acts of reprisal, according to various reports by human rights organizations, have not receded substantially. So that's why the Europeans are paying lip service for that. However, will this be a determining factor in European foreign policy vis-a-vis Syria? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Osman, now also the European ministers reportedly urged Syria's new interim government to remove Russian military presence in the country. How do you read this development?
Now, you see, Saif, this could actually be a contentious point. This could actually be a deal breaker for the Europeans, and this is how they show their true intentions. The European Union, not even before the visits of the German and French foreign ministers, during the visit of the Kallas, the European High Representative, the EU High Representative, a week ago, she openly said that we will not raise sanctions imposed on Syria unless they end Russian presence inside in Syria. And now this has also been a key point of negotiation, basically. However, will Ahmad al-Shara and his government, or Golani and his government, comply? The question still remains, because they said that they are keen not to stage a humiliating exit for the Russians from Syria, and that they are keen on maintaining a strategic relationship with Syria, which is of historic that has historic significance, as you might very well know. However, at the end of the day, I think if Ahmad al-Sharra is placed under enough pressure, he would be more than happy to kick the Russians out at the end if substantial aid is provided and substantial support is provided by the West, the collective West, meaning the United States and its European allies. Basically, he's using the presence of the Russians as a bargaining chip. If you give me what I want, I will remove them. If you don't, then I will prolong their stay, basically. So I think that's how al-Shar'a will take advantage of that. And I think this is what the European ministers are actually seeking, the elimination of Russian presence in Syria as part of the larger geopolitical war by proxy between NATO, which includes also most of the countries of the European Union, and Russia.
Mm-hmm. The international relations expert, Dr. Mohammed Osman, thank you very much for shedding light on this significant file. Now, the road ahead for Syria remains fraught with challenges, and much will depend on the international community's commitment to supporting a stable and inclusive transition. And with the humanitarian and geopolitical challenges unfolding across Europe, attention now shifts to Slovakia's response to Ukraine's halt of Russian gas transit, sparking debates on energy dependency and aid for refugees. The headline, Slovakia threatens to cut aid for Ukraine refugees amid gas transit dispute, brings attention to a complex situation. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico has raised concerns over the economic impact of Ukraine's decision to halt Russian gas transit, which could cost Slovakia 500 million euros annually. This has prompted discussions on potentially reducing aid for over 130,000 Ukrainian refugees in Slovakia. As the matter heads to Brussels, it highlights the challenges of balancing national economic interests with humanitarian commitments in the context of broader European dynamics. And joining us now to explore this file is Mr. Rami Alyoubi, the writer and political researcher from Moscow. Mr. Alyoubi, thank you for joining us here on Q News. Now, Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico has labelled Ukraine's actions as sabotage. What are the broader implications of this decision for the European Union unity?
Actually, when we look on the European Union, there is no one opinion upon the relations with Russia and Ukrainian issue, as well as gas supplies. Because there are some countries, which as Slovakia and Hungary and Moldova, which rely a lot on the Russian gas. And since the latest time, Austria was the main purchaser of Russian gas in the European Union, but at the end of the last year, Vienna ended its contract with Gazprom, which was signed till 2040, because there was some disagreement upon sanctions or fines because of a stop of supplies in 2022. So now the Slovakia is the main victim of this crisis, because Hungary and Moldova can compensate the loss of Russian gas by increasing supplies via Turkish stream. But Slovakia mainly relied on Ukrainian transit. And now there are some reserves of the gas which might be sufficient for a few weeks or months, but later Slovakia has to make difficult choices, either to reduce gas consumption or to buy liquefied gas in the European spot market, which is much more expensive than pipeline gas, which was supplied by Gazprom. So, and now Slovakia will probably push for some pressure upon Kiev to find some solution. And for example, the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban suggested recently that the purchase contract would take place during the gas being at Russian-Ukrainian borders. And in this case, the gas will be marked as European while being in the Ukrainian pipeline and can be run outside of the contract with Gazprom. Mm-hmm. Another way is to use Azerbaijani or Kazakhstan gas in the Ukrainian pipeline. So probably Slovakia will make pressure upon Kiev to accept some solution.
Well, Poland and other neighboring countries such as Hungary and Moldova, as you've mentioned, have pledged support for Ukraine despite Slovakia's stance. Rather, Poland and other neighboring countries. What does this indicate about the regional approach to the refugee crisis, having also Moldova and Hungary and Russia on the other side?
Actually, there is no unity in the European Union upon this question as well. Poland is historically like a political counterpart of Russia because there is like a dramatic past when actually Poland was a satellite of the Soviet Union. So, and that's why Poland and as well as Baltic states such as Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, since the beginning of the Russian-Ukrainian war, provided much support for Ukraine, while Poland became the main destination for Ukrainian refugees. Mm-hmm. And by the way, there are hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians residing in Poland even before the war, because Polish and Ukrainian language are quite similar. So, and it was culturally easy for Ukrainians to live in Poland, and so now this trend continues.
The writer and political researcher from Moscow, Mr. Romi Alyubi, thank you very much for your analysis. The energy and refugee policies in Europe remain highly interconnected, posing significant challenges for regional unity and stability. And that wraps up our episode tonight of In Focus. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.